Last month, in a controversial world first, Australia passed a law banning under-16s from using social media. At Westminster, some MPs want the UK Parliament to follow suit due to perceived harms to child development. STV's Westminster correspondent Gourtsoyannis has this report.
Today's teenagers have never known childhood without social media.
My whole life is on my phone, and so it really is.
Now some are asking whether tomorrow's teens should grow up without it.
The eyes of the world are on Australia this morning after Parliament passed sweeping world-first laws overnight, banning
Australia's just become the first country in the world to ban most social media platforms for under-16s. The Social Media Minimum Age Bill sets Australia up as a test case, with a growing number of governments planning age restrictions for social media amid concerns about its mental health impact on young people. The law forces tech giants, from Instagram and Facebook owner Meta to TikTok, to stop minors logging in or face millions of dollars worth of fines. At Westminster, a cross-party group of MPs is proposing to do the same across the UK.
We know from the clinical evidence that it has a negative impact on children's brain development, on their mental health and their learning, and that's just the direct impact. There's also the indirect impact that comes with them not doing the usual things that children should be doing, which whether it's playing, arguing with their friends, interacting socially and in person. We know from research that 12-year-olds spend about 21 hours a week online, which is the equivalent to a part-time job.
Campaigners blame social media for a rise in poor childhood mental health and trace that effect back a decade to when mobile technology turned social media into something teens could carry around in their pocket.
That's how people communicate with friends and family and stuff like that. So to take that away, they don't really have any other communication. I mean, there is, but it's easier to do it on social media.
Just completely taken away is kind of unfair because I think we're all entitled to social media. We all need it in our lives. It's a big part of today.
I don't think it's fair, but I think it's understandable. I think it'd be better to restrict the use of it and not take it away fully.
Restricting it instead of completely banning it would be better.
The Scottish Government has already given schools the power to ban smartphones from class, but some head teachers say the impact on pupils goes beyond just distracting from lessons.
We're asking pupils to go into classes, we're asking them to sit for 50 minutes, and having that kind of concentration and being able to focus on something for 50 minutes is becoming harder and harder. They're used to that kind of TikTok, view it, move on, and we're asking them to sit, to do English or maths or science for 50 minutes. So, I mean, from that point of view, in the classroom, I think it's had an impact. It's definitely had an impact around the school as well, the kind of constant living in each other's lives.
Social media companies already face tough new rules next year on protecting children from harmful content, which could cost millions of pounds in fines if they fail to act. But the UK government says it's willing to go further, and a ban is on the table. MPs are expected to debate the proposal in the new year.
We assessed the use of social media by children with the applied psychologist Dr. Christopher Hand and Anna McFadden, who's a university student. Chris, we've heard what the proposals are. Should social media be banned for younger people?
Personally, and based on research evidence, I would say no. I think it's far more important that we build digital literacies and competencies, teach people about safe use. Yes, there has to be responsibility for moderating and dealing with problematic content, but banning younger users is not the solution. Any actions that are taken have to go hand in hand with broader conversations and broader support for mental health and well-being, and social responsibility and ethics in everyday life. But I don't believe that this is really grounded in strong and consistent research, and I'm actually not convinced of the merit.
And Anna, can it be banned? I mean, in principle it might be, but practically can it be?
I think it's really easy for young people to find ways around it. The number of young people you hear now just putting in the wrong date of birth to access social media, I think that it is difficult because it's quite unavoidable in the modern age, and I think allowing young people to kind of make use of it and having open conversations with parents and establishing boundaries is the kind of key way to go about it, rather than a complete ban.
And just take us through your experience. So you grew up with social media, and how's it changed in that time?
Well, I think when I first started social media, I was more just interested to interact with my friends and kind of be like my older family members as well. And then since then, as I kind of grew up, I found that main means of expression through social media. I got involved in youth activism and different opportunities through things like Twitter. And it kind of allows you to create a network of young people as well. And I think it really is important for young people to kind of engage with each other and express different ideas. And it kind of gives them the platform to build their confidence on a different level, especially in the digital age.
And you're agreeing with that, Chris, but some people would say it's toxic. What would you say to them?
I think it can be, and I think there are some very tragic cases and exemplars where things have gone badly wrong. I think there could be better pressure put on companies to moderate their content and to kind of put in barriers between the user and the sort of immediacy of some of the content that surprises all of us as users. But as Anna said, the opportunities for young persons to grow their social networks, particularly people from historically marginalised groups, social media is an important place for them to be able to express themselves and to be able to find other like-minded souls. And I really worry about those vulnerable and marginalised youth suffering if such a ban was to come into place.
Is the evidence there to justify it, do you think?
Not really. There's a lot of mixed evidence. First of all, around whether or not exposure to social media and usage of social media is a sort of heavyweight predictor of mental health and well-being. It goes hand in hand with so many other things, and I really worry that the potential costs here are going to be greater than any marginal gains.
And you were saying, Anna, that as well as social media changing, it's actually been a big boon to your life. That's not always the case, though. Maybe not for you, but you must have heard of people not having had such good experiences.
Yeah, I think there are, as you mentioned, exemplar cases, and I think it's important to have the conversations with people, and that's why I think for young people in particular, having open communication with parents about social media is kind of the most important aspect of it, and as I said, establishing those boundaries.
We're talking about conversations with parents, but we know what these conversations can be like,
yeah.
and children can, and young people can maybe hide the truth or whatever. So it's a difficult thing for parents to navigate.
Yeah, I think that I would argue for more resources for parents to navigate social media as well, but also by not banning it completely and giving young people some kind of freedom and some ability to make their own decisions, with parents kind of having some input. I think it then gives them the chance to open up about it rather than being completely strict, because I think that, you know, enforcing a complete ban will lead to more secrecy.
Some of the social media companies have introduced certain things. Have they worked? I'm thinking TikTok have they not?
So one of the issues is that a lot of the mitigations that are in place can be circumvented either through artificial email accounts and being creative with your date of birth, or using another person's device, maybe a sibling or a family member or an older friend. I think what it boils down to is there's still too much inappropriate content, whether that's around sex or violence or intimate images shared without consent, and building everyone's digital literacies, making sure that users feel that they can report things in a clear and sensible way, making spaces for people to share when things have gone wrong and be supported is very important. And big worry for me is that this might push younger people to even less regulated parts of the internet, which would obviously be catastrophic for a lot of individuals.
Big question, Anna, but if you could keep it fairly brief, what does the future of social media look like? Because it does change all the time.
Yeah, I think with evolving trends constantly, for me, I see social media as a way of people to express themselves, and I think because so many of us have accessed it from a young age, it has become integral to our communication, and I think that plays a lot into people's mental health. Even during lockdown, we saw people making use of social media to communicate with others, and I think because we've experienced that, it's something that we use daily, and it has become really important to us anyway.
Do you use it as much as you used to?
Yeah, I would say I do.
You're still with it?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I had it from secondary school to uni, and I think it's completely kind of stayed the same in how much I use it, definitely.
And very, very briefly, Chris, the future of social media as far as you're concerned?
That's an interesting question. I think we'll see integration with other technologies, particularly augmented and extended realities. And I think from a vulnerability perspective, it's the growth of things like deepfake images and generative AI and becoming harder to tell fact from fiction.
Well, there we shall leave it. Thank you both for joining us in Scotland tonight.
Thank you.